G'day guys and gal. There really isn't many good guys in the Warhammer setting. Pretty much everyone is doing some pretty questionable stuff. The Imperium are a bunch of racist fascists. The Eldar are a bunch of pretentious wankers that have caused massive problems for the galaxy, and the Tau like brainwashing people. The only real good guys are the Fireside Enclaves, but their founder uses a vampiric sword that sucks away people's life forces and then feeds them to himself. But the alternate to space Nazis, arrogant orgy lovers, and creepy blue fish people is undead robots, vicious biomass devourers, angry mushrooms, and demonic tentacles. Hence, for argument's sake, you can consider the Imperium to be the good guys. Unless we're talking about the Flesh Tearers. The Flesh Tearers are huge assholes, and if it wasn't obvious by their name, are not the kind of guys you want to invite to your tea parties. In saying that though, only Warhammer could take the group of bloodthirsty psychopaths who specialise in sodomizing you with your own spine and make them a rather enjoyable and entertaining chapter of Marines who have a pretty solid, if slightly unorthodox sense of honour, led by a douchebag who you just can't help but root for. Before we get started, as a quick update about the drunk stream happening this Friday, where I'll be attempting to paint an Eldar Titan while also attempting not to pass out on camera. I got the base printed, and holy shit, it's massive. I'm still struggling with the paint scheme, because I like Craftworld Alntazar because of Margan Ra and its lore, but their paint scheme is kinda gay, and I like Ulthway's colour scheme, but they're a bunch of nerds, so that's a no from me. Then I was like, aha, the Yanari! And whilst their colour scheme is also a bit, it seems I can make them a bit more spooky and still get away with it. So lady and gentlemen, we have a winner. I mean, that's assuming I can paint the thing while 10 shots deep. Today we'll go over the lore and story of the Flesh Tearers, where they came from, why they like to tear flesh, and what's the deal with their legendary chapter master Gabriel Seth. Let's get into it. I could really just say the word Flesh Tearers in a long and drawn out way, and that would sum up the chapter pretty well, but then I wouldn't get my succulent ad revenue, so I guess we're doing this the hard way. When the Big E got Stephen Hawkinged and Horace got obliterated, Gilliman stepped up to the plate and was like, "Oi, no more legions." And some of his brothers were like, but I like legions. And he was like, "No, I said no more." Hence all the Space Marine legions were split up into 1,000 man strong chapters. Over a couple of thousand years, there were various foundings to create more chapters. Some of these chapters were pretty cool and created solid Space Marines. Others were sad and shit and created the Lamenters. The Flesh Tearers are a part of the original Legion split, hence these guys are old, and considering how violent they are, it's honestly a sick miracle that they're still kicking. The Flesh Tearers were originally created from the most bloodthirsty and least noble of Sanguinius' sons, pretty much the Blood Angels' 5th Company. Even Sanguinius was like, bloody hell, when talking about this particular group of Marines, who literally bring flaying knives into battle, like who the fuck does that? Their first chapter master was Nasir Amit, who has been nicknamed the Flesh Tearer due to his tendency to tear flesh, hence that is what the chapter was called. Makes sense. Upon their founding, they were one of the chapters who viciously chased after the traitor legions and took a part in the Scouring, a galaxy-wide genocide campaign against Chaos that was so devastating that it would take Chaos thousands of years to get its shit together again. Now the Emperor, and even the Imperium to this very day, have a habit of ignoring questionable shit if the person committing said shit is super effective at killing the enemies of the Imperium. Hence the Flesh Tearers got a pass for their tendency to be so berserk that they would make the World Eaters look tame. Now over time, the Flesh Tearers really begun to highlight the difference between efficient and effective. Did they kill the bad guys? Yes. Did they kill the good guys? Also yes. Dropping in the Flesh Tearers was like dropping in a nuke. Nobody survives. They begun as a mobile crusading fleet, but eventually decided to inhabit a death world that they called Creatia. Sure. Which, while sounds like a soothing ointment cream, was actually the Blood Angel term for Birth of Wrath. Nice. The world was full of dinosaurs and volcanoes and shit, which is pretty cool and made for some hardy recruits, as there was already a small human feral population on the planet, but with the small recruitment pool, extremely high mortality rate of monks recruits, as well as the Flesh Tearers' extremely high chance of falling to the Black Rage, the chapter has been on the brink of extinction for thousands of years, rarely ever getting close to a full chapter, rather hovering closer around the 400 Marine mark. After thousands of years of chopping off people's dicks and killing their own allies in fits of rage, the Flesh Tearers were universally disliked, and nobody wanted to work with them or fight alongside them. Their original chapter master, Nasir Amit, had died in battle under mysterious circumstances. Combining these together, the Flesh Tearers more or less vanished from the lore for a few thousand years, and when they reappeared, they continued to piss everyone off and be an absolute nuisance. Eldar raid on a planet? Let's firebomb the forests and poison the rivers. Orc invasion? Let's counterattack them and our own guardsmen simultaneously. They'll never expect that one. At this point, the only reason why they hadn't been declared renegade or excommunicated is because the Inquisition was probably too scared to do it. Eventually, in the 41st millennium, their current chapter master Gabriel Seth took command of the Flesh Tearers. He was a raging dick, but he wasn't delusional enough to see that with their rate of falling to the Black Rage, as well as their slow recruitment, the Flesh Tearers only had a couple hundreds of years left. He decided that they would go down in honor and glory, not as rabid dogs, hence he went to the Blood Angels to begin to repair their relationship. He also restructured the chapter in a way that meant they would try and do their best to only attack isolated enemies, meaning they should now cause way less collateral damage. Gabriel had a kind of weird attitude towards his chapter. He knew that the Flesh Tearers were a bunch of angry fuckwits that had caused a lot of dishonor towards themselves and Sanguinius, and he wanted to try and fix that, but at the same time, he liked that the Flesh Tearers were vicious, and he saw the Black Rage as something that shouldn't necessarily be feared or shunned. He was also a huge badass, and here is a great example of why. Basically, when a Blood Angel falls to the Black Rage, they're put into a group of other Black Rages called the Death Company. They're deployed as shock trooper berserkers who are sent in to wreak havoc and then die. If any survive, they are then mercy killed by the High Chaplain of the Blood Angels called Ashtaroth, who is an absolute beast. In one instance, Ashtaroth arrived at the aftermath of a battle where 5 Death Company Flesh Tearers had somehow survived, and were more or less just waiting around in a mountain of corpses. Ashtaroth was able to kill all 5, and then he recorded their names before burning their bodies. You know, that was his job. He didn't do it, but you can't just have a bunch of berserkers who'll become even more berserk running around. Gabriel was furious. Who was Ashtaroth to pass judgment to his brothers? Hence he waltzed right into Ashtaroth's tower and begun to assault the chaplain, which was super heretical, like big no-no, but also kind of fun. Now Gabriel is a beast, but Ashtaroth is like low-key supernaturally overpowered, so despite the Flesh Tearer getting some good shots in, he was getting his ass beat. Ashtaroth was like, bro, stop, you know I'm better, and Gabriel was like, I know, but every minute you are here fighting me is a minute you're not in the galaxy killing Flesh Tearers. And while Gabriel's sentiment was admirable, Ashtaroth was probably just pouring himself some tea, and hadn't made any more plans to kill more fallen Flesh Tearers at that current time. Seth then limps away, telling Ashtaroth that if he put down any more of his brothers, he would come back with an army. Hectic. Despite Seth's best efforts though, fuck that's a tongue twister, the Flesh Tearers were still a bunch of raging fuckheads who team killed. During the Third War for Armageddon, they performed a cheeky back attack on an Orc force. Guardsmen and Sister battled at the front, Flesh Tearers at the rear. The Orcs were sandwiched and massacred. As the Guardsmen were cheering, the Flesh Tearers charged into their lines and began tearing them apart. The Sisters of Battle were like, fuck this, and fled the scene to report the Flesh Tearers to the Inquisition. The Flesh Tearers were a flick of a dick away from being declared heretics, and they left the war. Dante, the leader of the Blood Angels, called Gabriel to their homeworld of Baal to stand trial for the 10,000 years of Flesh Tearer fuckery. During the trial, Gabriel was grilled on all the times he and his sons did something wrong, which was a lot. Each time he basically just told the accuser to eat his dick. Eventually, the judgment came. Gabriel and the Flesh Tearers were found guilty of being naughty. The Flesh Tearers were to be disbanded and reabsorbed into the other chapters, with Gabriel having to live out his days on Baal. Just as the judgment was made, Ashtaroth burst into the room and was like, guys, I know the Flesh Tearers are dicks. They're reckless, arrogant, stupid dicks. And the Inquisition are pussies. And Chaos is an asshole. Pussies don't like dicks because pussies get fucked by dicks. But dicks also fuck assholes. Assholes who just want to shit on everything. Pussies may think they can deal with assholes their own way, but the only thing that can fuck an asshole is a dick. With some balls. The problem with dicks is sometimes they fuck too much, or fuck when it isn't appropriate, and it takes a pussy to show them that. But sometimes, pussies get so full of shit that they become assholes themselves. because pussies are only an inch and a half away from assholes. I don't know much in this crazy, crazy world, but I do know if you if you don't let me fuck those assholes, we're gonna have our dicks and our pussies all covered in shit. The speech was so moving that although the flesh tearers were found guilty, they were allowed to retain their chapter in freedom. Sorry. Gabriel continued to try uphold his chapter's honor and keep them going to the best of his ability. And then the Tyranids attacked. A fuck-off huge hive fleet beeline for Baal, and every single Blood Angel successor was called back to defend it. All answered the call. Other than the Lamenters, but they had other shit to worry about. The Flesh Tearers came with their final 400 battle brothers, and boy did they fight. They tore Nids to shreds with their chainswords, hands, teeth, and own protruding bones. Each Flesh Tearer fought like a one-man army, as most of them fell to the Black Rage during the huge battle. When Dante was injured by the Swarm Lord, Gabriel took command of the defences and held the Nids back long enough for Guilliman to arrive with his Indominatus fleet and save the day. The Flesh Tearers are also saved as G-Man brought them enough Primaris to restore them back to full strength. Due to the extra stability of the Primaris gene seed, it also stabilised their chapter's tendency to fall to the Black Rage. Surprisingly, Gabriel was pretty unhappy about this. He saw all Primaris as Ultramarines in different coloured armour, and was concerned that the Flesh Tearers were going to lose their rage-induced culture. He puts it more eloquently, but that's the gist of it. I remember a scene from one of the novels that was actually quite hilarious. I can't remember which novel, so if you know, then comment it below. Basically, one of the new Flesh Tearer Primaris were bitching about why they had to be put in the Flesh Tearer chapter. He then tells Gabriel that Gabriel is shorter than he expected, and that Primaris is superior, so Gabriel beats the Primaris within an inch of his life to show him who's boss. Fuck, I love Gabriel sometimes. Every Primarch has some seriously rogue sons. After all, the Space Sharks are Raven Guard successors. For Sanguinius, it was the Flesh Tearers, and while they have scored the highest for teammates killed, you can't say they aren't effective. And that does us for today, guys, the lore and story of the Flesh Tearers. If you enjoyed the video and want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be, where only $1 per month give you access to a boatload of Warhammer hentai. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more flesh tearing content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.